Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have news that Jason Leech has quit his role as the National Clinical Director. And this is one of those curious coincidences where I've got a Freedom of Information request reply from the Scottish Government about Jason Leech. And it was a story I was going to do anyway, and now this story's come up, so I'm going to merge them. I'm going to put them together and create one sort of complete story about it. But Jason Leech is not an epidemiologist. He's not anyone who knows about infection control. He's not an expert in any manner of bacteriology or virology. He's a failed dentist. It took him 7 attempts to pass his dentistry exams. This is a man who pulls out teeth with pliers, who's put in charge of a pandemic, a man without qualification. And he's certainly not a professor, regardless of what he calls himself. It's a very weird thing to have him on the team as the leader when you have someone like Hugh Pennington available, the man who actually helped discover SARS, of which COVID is a variant. You have him on the team, an absolute expert in the field, if not the expert in the field, and yet you put in a teeth puller. Presumably he's manoeuvrable. He's someone that you can control. You couldn't control Pennington because Pennington likes to talk about, the truth. Anyway, Leech has quit, and so we're going to have a look at these joint stories and put them together. And I think we'll start, first of all, we'll just do the news of his leaving, just to get that out of the way, and then we'll go and do the Freedom of Information request to give a little background to what this man was. Here goes. So, stooge Jason Leech leaving his role as the National Clinical Director after the COVID WhatsApp scandal. And this is the man who said, I sat there every night and deleted everything religiously, presumably only because he knew that what was on there wouldn't have just led to him resigning today, but would have led to him being put into a jail cell for quite some time, I presume. The former dentist dominated the COVID response in Scotland alongside Nicola Sturgeon, but controversy surrounded his WhatsApp messages at the UK inquiry. He knew he shouldn't, he was told he shouldn't, and yet he did. At the very least, he needs to be arrested and charged with contempt of court, and that can carry a very hefty sentence indeed. Never mind, deletion is also the destruction of evidence, which also can carry a very serious penalty. Leech is to leave his post at Scotland's NCD, with critics branding him a stooge. The former dentist has been in the role since 2015. Unqualified, of course, not an expert in the field. No one would suggest he knows what he's talking about, but he is politically useful. You have the idiot there that will take the fall, the patsy, if you will. He was one of the Scottish Government's most recognisable faces on TV, as he and Nicola Sturgeon dominated the issue. However, he found himself embroiled in controversy when he knowingly deleted all his WhatsApp messages from the pandemic period. And it's all emerged that he did it every night. I'm going to delete, even after being told he shouldn't. He was criticised for the deletion of key messages, while one of the surviving notes showed him saying, WhatsApp deletion is a pre-bed ritual. He later dismissed that as a flippant exaggeration. Well, he's going to say that, but undoubtedly it was for him because nothing exists. Delete. And now, of course, he's been deleted. Reacting to the news, Conservative Chairman Craig Hoy said Jason Leech's position became untenable when damning revelations about him were first revealed at the COVID inquiry. That exposed him less as an independent civil servant and more as a stooge for Sturgeon, Swinney and the SNP. The flippant remarks on WhatsApp message deletion being a pre-bed ritual caused COVID-bereaved families great upset. They should have been enough for Humza Yousaf to sack him. Humza Yousaf would never sack him. That would require a pair of balls. And old Kendall, he's very, very long way from having those. It's been a long time since he's ever had them, isn't it? Makes you wonder how he managed to get all these women pregnant. Anyway, with the First Minister too weak to act, Jason Leech has belatedly done the right thing by resigning, presumably to spend more time with his money. You must wonder how much he's actually garnered in backhanders and bribes. Makes you, I'm not saying he has been bribed, just makes you wonder if he's been bribed. Got to cover myself. The SNP must guarantee that the next person in this public-facing role fully restores confidence among the public. If it's appointed by the SNP, there will be no confidence because we know how crooked they are. As well as a doctorate from the University of Glasgow, a doctor in dentistry, remember, and it took him 7 attempts. He has a master's in public health from Harvard and is a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in England. And simply an RCS because he pulls teeth. He doesn't open bodies. He's a teeth puller. And he claims all these things. You know, oh, I've done a master's in Harvard. How much does that cost? Because it's, what's the Latin quote of Harvard? Who pays, qualifies. Something like that. Yeah, he's also a fellow of the Higher Education Academy. And he's an honorary professor at the University of Dundee. Honorary professor. Not an actual professor, you understand. Honorary. And he calls himself professor because of his honorary professorship. What a fraud. What a knob, but what a fraud. Anyway, he was there. He was put in front of all this. He's not a man who's vested in great knowledge of pandemics or of virology or of epidemiology and all these things that really do require expert knowledge. He's someone who yanks teeth with pliers. His daily job is open wide, pull, drill. And dentistry hasn't changed since medieval times. Now, that's that. He's gone. Thank God he's gone. So we're going to take a look at this freedom of information. Now, this came from Roger Livermore, friend of the channel. It's actually, I'm going to be meeting him, I hope, next week. We'll have a catch-up and a physical, face-to-face. Might throw something up on the channel. But Roger has written to the Scottish Government and requested background information on Leech. And we have that. I'm going to go and show you that. The new. We'll have a look. Let me flick this over. I'm going to have to go now. I'll probably have to just, straighten up into the middle. So this is it. I've not gone to the top because it shows Roger's email and I just want to protect that from him. But this is from Roger requested information and then this response came. So we'll take a look at this. Dear Roger M. Livermore, this was just a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Dear Roger Livermore, request under the Freedom of Information Scotland Act 2002, FOISA. Thank you for your request, dated the 30th of January 2024, under the Freedom of Information Scotland Act 2002, to John Paul Skid Marks, Permanent Secretary, on behalf of ASAP NHS, for whom, of course, Roger is the lead. He says, as you may be aware, Mr. Marks receives a large volume of correspondence, and I am therefore responding to you on his behalf. And here's what Roger asked for. He said, you asked... Oops, I've gone too far. There we go. He says, you've asked for the following in relation to Professor Jason Leech, National Clinical Director. An employment history since 2006, when and what roles for the Scottish Government, IHI Boston, NHS Tayside and other employees. What role did he play in IHI contracts with the Scottish Government, its Health and Social Care Directorate and its direct report to NHS Scotland? How was he appointed as lead for patient safety in 2007? Who was involved? Was there an open competition? I think this may jump, so I may have a problem here. Let's see if I can... No, it does a jump. I don't know if I can get that. You're going to have to bear with. I might have to push this up there. There we go. Let's push that there. It said, how was he appointed as NCD around 2012? Who was involved? Was there an open competition? And what role did he and Derek Feely have on IHI matters? Feely being the NHS Scotland SG, Scottish Government, and then President and CEO of IHI, then back to roles within the Scottish NHS Scotland and Scottish Government. So now the request, he says, I'm unable to comment on information that does not fall within the remit of the Scottish Government and would ask that you direct those requests to the relevant public bodies. Please note, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, the IHI, is an independent, not-for-profit organisation and not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. Sorry I can't show that up there fully. It's the way that this is in Word, I think. Oh, it's a PDF. It's a PDF, sorry. And it won't let me scan very well. I can't sort of strip down line by line. But anyway, he said, while our aim... I'm making excuses, but it's just the tech, limited by the tech here. It says, while our aim is to provide information wherever possible in this instance, blah, 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 blah. And so it's just saying who it is. So he says, I can confirm that Mr. Leech has provided the Scottish Government with advice since October 2007. This advice was initially provided by way of inward secondment from Glasgow University from January 2007 to August 2012. Having joined NHS Tayside in 2012, this advice continued under a service level agreement. Service level agreements are a procurement relationship between the Scottish Government, Health and Service Care Directorates and the NHS Scotland under the TECL exemption, underpinned in Scottish procurement law by Public Contract Scotland's Regulations 2015, Regulations 13. In this, and in Mr Leach's case, the exemption involves the Scottish Government and NHS Scotland and permits NHS Scotland to provide services to the Scottish Government without the need for competitive procurement tender exercise. In other words, the role wasn't advertised, the role wasn't put forward to other people to thus select the best person for the role. The role was offered to him, mates rates. Come and do this. It's a little bit of fun for you. Have a bit of money off the public purse. Nobody will worry about it. Don't you worry. You just spend the money, mate. Mr Leach was appointed the National Clinical Director in Scottish Government Health and Social Care Directorate in January 2015 under the above SLA. He is the SG Director and member of the Health and Social Care Management Board. He is one of the senior team responsible for the NHS in Scotland, until today, of course, when he resigned. The role in which Mr Leach and Mr Feely had while working for Scottish Government on the Specialist Technical Quality Improvement Framework agreements were to provide advice. Now, what advice can you get across the whole of healthcare from a dentist? Seriously. The framework agreements were subject to competition and published in the official journal of the European Union. NHS boards and wider public sector organisations commissioned specialist QI project support under the agreements. Mr Leach and Mr Feely provided clinical and QI advice to commissioning organisations. Again, why a dentist? Why would you not have someone better versed, better qualified than a dentist? He said, you asked how Mr Leach was appointed as the lead for patient safety in 2007. The Patient Safety Alliance was established in 2007 and the Scottish Patient Safety Programme started in 2008. This was, and remains today, a programme of work designed to reduce infections in Scottish hospitals, in which case it's doing a really bad job, isn't it? As a clinical QI fellow, Mr Leach helped establish and lead the programme in its formative years. I'm aware your previous correspondence on the current infection prevention and control guidance, which is an important part of patient safety, and I must reiterate that there are nothing further that can be added to the replies you've already received from the Scottish Government officials. As previously supplied to you, ASAP NHS, any points that have been raised previously in correspondence and received a full supply will not be responded to again. In other words, shut your face and don't worry about, just listen to what you're being told because we don't care. He says, if you're unhappy with this response, basically sod off and write to someone else and they give you the address of who you relate to. So if you're not satisfied with the result of the review, you have the right to appeal to the Scottish Information Commissioner and gives him address. Anyway, this is the annex. The reasons why they're not telling anything to anyone. Number one, an exemption applies. An exemption under Section 38 1B, personal information, FOIs, that applies to some of the information you've requested, the inward secondment agreement, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just giving you that. I'll leave this up, and then, I'll just leave this there. You can always go back, pause it. I'm not going to read all through it. It's just talking about the exemptions. So you can always pause the video and read it. And that came from Sonia Cox, Leading Improvement, the DCOO of Leading Improvement. So he's asked lots of questions, has Mr Livermore, and they have answered only one. And that is how Roger got his... That's not how Roger, how Jason Leach got his job is the only answer that they've given to all those questions. And the job wasn't an open competition. It was handed to him on a plate. Have lots of public money for no reason whatsoever, Mr Leach. Stinks, doesn't it? They won't answer any of the other questions. They won't say if it was this or that or the other. They've hidden it all up. Is anyone surprised? Yet again, cover up, hiding and shame. I'm coming up. So Leech has left a job for which he need not apply. He didn't apply for it, it was handed to him. He's not qualified. He's not experienced in the role. He's done it for all those years. And when they needed someone to be in charge who knew what they were doing, they had a guy with a pretendy professorship who pulls teeth for a living. No wonder it all went wrong, isn't it? Anyway, he's gone now. He can go and spend... just disappear. Just disappear, Jason Leech. Don't care. Just disappear. Never want to see you again unless it's a court case. I'll finish there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and I will be with you later. Bye.